During Matthew and Ingrid's wedding ceremony, the atmosphere was filled with emotion and joy. However, when the long-awaited moment of the ring procession arrived, the harmony was suddenly disrupted. Matthew's son ran down the aisle, screaming in despair, "Dad, don't marry her!" What he was holding in his hands left everyone even more surprised. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. Ava looked tenderly at her little Brett, who was struggling to reach the glass of water on the bedside table. At just 5 years old, the boy already showed an admirable determination to take care of his sick mother. Ava smiled, remembering how, in the past few weeks, Brett had become her little personal nurse. "Here, Mummy," Brett said proudly, handing the glass to Ava. She took a sip and thanked him with a kiss on his forehead. Despite the illness that was consuming her, Ava was determined to create precious memories with Brett. On the days when she felt a little better, she made an effort to play with her son in the garden, tell stories, and teach him little things about life. One afternoon, while having an impromptu picnic in the bedroom, Ava held Brett's little hands and looked deeply into his eyes. "Brett, my love, you know that Mummy loves you more than anything in this world, don't you?" The boy nodded, his eyes shining. "I want you to know that no matter what happens, I will always be your mother. Even when you can't see me, I will be right here." She placed her hand over Brett's heart. "Kept safely inside your heart. And whenever you feel lonely, just close your eyes and remember me, and I will be there with you." Brett didn't fully understand what his mother meant, but he felt the importance of her words and kept them in his heart. In the following months, Ava continued to bravely fight the disease, but her body grew weaker by the day. Matthew, her husband, did his best to keep hope alive, but the weight of the situation was visible in his tired eyes. When the inevitable happened, it was as if Matthew and Brett's world had collapsed. Little Brett, now almost 6 years old, didn't fully comprehend what his mother's absence meant, but he deeply felt the emptiness she had left behind. Matthew did his best to care for his son and keep Ava's memory alive. Together, father and son faced the difficult days, finding comfort in each other and in the memories of the woman they both loved so dearly. 2 years had passed since Ava's departure. Matthew was doing his best to raise Brett, now 7 years old, on his own. One afternoon, while they were playing at the local park, Brett, full of energy and laughter, was running along the sand trails. In a moment of carelessness, his small feet slipped in a puddle left by the previous night's rain. The boy fell and hit his forehead on a rock, opening a cut. Matthew's heart raced upon seeing the blood streaming down Brett's forehead. In a panic, he quickly took his son in his arms and ran towards the local emergency room, feeling a deep fear and an old pain, as if he were about to lose something precious again. At the emergency room, they were attended by Ingrid, a nurse with a gentle smile and eyes that radiated calm. She noticed the terror in Matthew's eyes and Brett's silent crying. With a calm voice, Ingrid asked Matthew to sit down and assured him that she would take care of Brett's cut. Her hands were skillful and gentle, and her touch seemed to have the power to soothe both the father and the son. "Brett, you are a very brave boy," Ingrid said with a smile as she carefully cleaned the wound. "This will need a few stitches, but I promise it won't hurt. I will make sure everything is all right, okay?" The boy, still tearful, nodded his head, feeling comforted by Ingrid's kind words. Matthew watched in silence, feeling a mix of gratitude and admiration for the nurse who seemed to have a special ability to calm his son. When Ingrid finished the bandage, she offered him a lollipop, which made Brett crack a small smile. Matthew couldn't help but notice how Brett's smile returned to brighten his face, even after the pain and the scare. In the following days, Matthew couldn't get Ingrid out of his mind. He remembered the serenity with which she took care of Brett, the patience in every gesture, and the way she spoke to his son as if she had known him for years. The memory of Ingrid's reassuring smile replayed in his mind, bringing him a sense of comfort he hadn't felt in a long time. A few weeks later, on a sunny morning, Matthew and Brett went to the park again. Brett was eager to play, fully recovered from his minor accident. As Matthew watched Brett run, he noticed a familiar figure in the distance. It was Ingrid, strolling peacefully through the park. When Brett spotted her, his eyes lit up, and without a second thought, he ran towards her. "Ingrid!" he shouted with the kind of joy only a child can express. Ingrid knelt down to hug the boy and asked lovingly how he was feeling. Matthew, as he approached, felt the same warmth in his heart upon seeing them together. They chatted casually, and before they knew it, they had spent the entire afternoon together, watching Brett play and laughing at the stories and jokes that Ingrid knew how to tell like no one else. That day, something changed. What began as a casual meeting in the park evolved into a sincere friendship, marked by Ingrid's constant presence in both of their lives. Ingrid was always attentive to Brett, never forcing anything, always respecting the boy's space and the memory of his mother. Over time, Matthew realised that it wasn't just Ingrid's beauty that attracted him, but her genuine kindness and the way she treated his son, with a tenderness he hadn't seen in a long time. The meetings became more frequent. Brett eagerly looked forward to the afternoons with Ingrid, knowing that there would always be a new story to hear or a fun game to learn. Matthew, on the other hand, felt his heart warm more and more, seeing the joy that Ingrid brought into their lives. After a few months of meetings and conversations, during a quiet afternoon while watching Brett run through the park, Matthew felt it was the right moment. With a racing heart, he turned to Ingrid and, with a shy smile, asked if she would like to make official what they already felt in their hearts. Ingrid smiled, her eyes shining with emotion, and said yes. Brett, upon hearing the news, leaped with joy. For him, it meant that Ingrid would be even more present in their lives, something he deeply desired. Thus, the relationship between Matthew and Ingrid blossomed naturally, with love, patience, and respect. It was the beginning of a new phase, where everyone had a special role in a new family that was forming, united by love and memories of the past. About a year after the start of the relationship, Matthew felt that the bond between him, Ingrid, and Brett had strengthened in a natural and beautiful way. With a heart full of love and gratitude, he decided it was time to take the next step. On a quiet afternoon, while strolling through the park that had become special to them, Matthew knelt before Ingrid and, with eyes shining with emotion, proposed to her. Ingrid, surprised and touched by the simplicity and sincerity of the moment, accepted with tears of joy in her eyes. With delicacy and affection, they began to plan the ceremony. Brett, who had embraced Ingrid with warmth from the very beginning, was excited about the idea of celebrating this union. He couldn't wait for Ingrid to officially become part of the family, filling his home with even more love and joy. However, a few days before the wedding, during a family dinner, one of Brett's cousins made an innocent comment that changed everything. "So, Brett, excited to have a new mum?" the cousin asked, without any ill intention. The words struck Brett like a lightning bolt. New mum? He had never thought of it that way. His mum was Ava, and no one could replace her. The smile vanished from his face, and a feeling of anguish overtook him. From that moment on, Brett's behaviour changed drastically. He, who had been so excited about the wedding before, now appeared distant and even rude to Ingrid. Matthew noticed the change but attributed it to pre-wedding nerves. On the big day, Brett reluctantly agreed to carry the rings to the altar. Matthew and Ingrid were radiant, surrounded by friends and family in the small chapel. The music began to play, announcing the entrance of the ring-bearer. Everyone turned to see Brett walking down the aisle. But to everyone's surprise, instead of the rings, the boy was carrying a picture frame with a photo of Ava. "Dad, don't marry her!" Brett shouted, running toward Matthew with tears in his eyes. "You can't replace Mum. I don't want a new mum." A buzz spread throughout the church. Some guests tried to intercept Brett, but Ingrid, with a gentle gesture, asked everyone to calm down. Matthew and Ingrid exchanged a look of understanding. In the rush of the preparations, they had neglected something crucial, explaining to Brett the true meaning of this union. Calmly, Matthew descended from the altar and knelt in front of his son. Ingrid followed him, keeping a respectful distance. "Brett, my son," Matthew began, his voice choked with emotion. "No one will ever replace your mother. Ava will always be your mother, and she will always have a special place in our hearts." Ingrid slowly approached and crouched down next to Matthew. "Brett," she said softly, "I never wanted to take your mother's place. She is irreplaceable. What I hope for is to bring more love to our family, if you allow me." Matthew continued, "Son, love is a wonderful thing because it doesn't divide. It multiplies. Having Ingrid in our lives doesn't mean loving your mother any less. It means we have more love to share." Brett looked at his father, then at Ingrid, and back at the photo of his mother. Slowly he began to understand. "But what if I forget Mum?" "That will never happen," assured Matthew. "We will always keep her memory alive. Ingrid didn't come to replace but to add to our love." Ingrid smiled gently. "Brett, if you let me, I would like to be your friend, someone you can count on. Your mother will always be your mother, and I would never try to change that." The boy remained silent for a few moments, processing everything he had heard. Then, to everyone's surprise, he extended a hand to Ingrid and another to his father. "Can we all go to the altar together?" he asked timidly. Matthew and Ingrid exchanged emotional glances and nodded. The three of them stood up, Brett in the middle, holding his father's hand, and Ingrid's, still carrying Ava's picture frame. As they walked together down the aisle, there wasn't a dry eye in the church. It was a scene that represented not only the union of Matthew and Ingrid, but the formation of a new family, where the love of the past and the present coexisted in harmony. The ceremony proceeded now with an even deeper meaning. When it was time for the vows, Ingrid surprised everyone by first addressing Brett. "Brett, I promise to always respect the memory of your mother and the love you shared. I promise to be a friend, a confidant, and to be here for you whenever you need. Not to replace, but to add love to your life." The words profoundly touched Brett's heart, who smiled for the first time since the beginning of the ceremony. Matthew, emotional, made his vows to Ingrid, promising love, respect, and partnership. When he finished, he turned to Brett. "And to you, my son, I promise we will always honour the memory of your mother. I promise that this new chapter in our lives will bring more love, more joy, and that together, the three of us, will build a strong and happy family." The ceremony concluded with applause and tears of emotion from those present. At the reception that followed, Brett surprised everyone by asking to make a toast. "To Mum Ava, who is always in our hearts," he began, looking up at the sky, "and to Ingrid, who came to bring more love to our family." At that moment, everyone understood the most important lesson of the day. Love has the incredible power to multiply, to create space for new connections without diminishing the old ones. Matthew, Brett, and Ingrid's family was a living proof that there is always room to love more people, and that love only enriches our lives. The wedding that began with tears of sorrow ended with tears of joy and hope. It was the beginning of a new journey for all of them, a journey based on respect for the past and the expectation of a future filled with love. As the celebration continued, Brett watched his father dancing with Ingrid, a genuine smile on his face. He held his mother's framed photo against his chest, and for the first time, he felt that everything was all right. He had his mother's love kept in his heart, and now he had even more love in his life. That night before sleeping, Brett looked at Ava's picture and whispered, "Mum, I think now we have an even bigger family to love." And with that comforting thought, he fell asleep, dreaming of the happy days that were to come. If you enjoyed, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment with a number from 1 to 5 to let us know how much you liked the story. Also, watch the video that is currently on your screen. See you soon.